pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you and welcome. Kathy, can we have a roll call, please?
Saban. Present. Schreiber.
Here.
Bergbauer.
Here.
Gallopi.
Here.
Teske.
Here.
Malose.
Here.
Bernison.
Here.
Coretta.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, friends, I'm going to move a few things around tonight because obviously we have an unusual meeting tonight. We have a joint meeting. We have our H&A members here. We have our planning and zoning members here. And so it's kind of a little bit of a workshop. What I would like to do, though, is move a couple things around on the agenda because that will, help clear the room out a little bit. So I am proposing that we move CA3, AT2, and CED1 up to the beginning of this agenda so we can get those folks' decisions and get them to move along, and then we can get back to our joint meeting. Is everybody okay with that?
Wait, can you just repeat that? Yeah, I need that too.
CA3,
CA3,
AT2,
AT2,
and CED1.
CED1.
All right, so
Perfect.
is there anything for liaison reports that you guys want to share?
I have something to say. So Lockport Love will have their biggest amount of families that have been turned in this year. We'll have 20 families. The meeting for the liaisons to represent the families will be November 18th at 5 p.m. And then the Lockport Love Parade, I believe, is December 19th.
Okay.
And that'll be at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, then let's jump into it. So then if we can jump into CA3.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. CA3 is authorizing a sale and approval of the purchase and redevelopment agreement with Boss Properties LLC for construction of a building on a vacant lot located at 1016 South State Street in our downtown. The City of Lockport recently acquired the property at 1016 South State. The 1,000 block of South State has been in a renaissance for recent years, in part because of a lot of the investments that Boss Properties has been doing with successful ventures. This concept includes commercial space on the first floor and potential residential for the second and third floors as proposed. I know that H&A Committee had reviewed and approved their current plan. In this scenario where the city has acquired this property, half of it would be sold back to Boss Properties. It's the most western portion, and I don't know, do I have a clicker somewhere so I could show a photo? We got out of sequence, we're all discombobulated here. But the property on State Street would be sold with a credit back to the buyer for a easement and public sidewalk. There you go. There's the full-size lot that we acquired recently next to Jackie's. It's a vacant lot. In the back, you can see is currently under construction to become a public parking lot. One of the reasons we were trying to expedite this and get this done this year is that there's an opportunity to put a foundation in with the new buyer and get that construction done at the same time while the other parking lot is still going on, so they don't disrupt things once they're finished. And would you go one more? There you go. There's the lot that we would be selling back for $45,000 to the Boss Properties. Minus a credit for an easement that will be on the south side. It's a 10-foot easement for an 8-foot sidewalk to connect State Street to the public parking lot in the back that we're in the process of constructing right now. So this is Resolution 2126, which would allow the permitting process to begin right away. We're hopeful and anticipating that they would get this still foundation and walkway put in yet this year, weather depending and approval of the agreement. The buyer will put down a down payment. The buyer will make payments, and the title will not be transferred until paid in full and the easement and sidewalk is built and installed. This is a nice public-private partnership that we've been working on here with Boss Properties. There was quite a few documents in your packet, and again, we're looking to proceed and get them to the building permit process as soon as possible yet this year. Can I answer any questions about it?
So my question is, it's more for the petitioner. I know that there were some discussions about a second-generation building as opposed to going back to the, kind of clapboard original kind of thing. There were some concerns about sprinklers, elevators, all that stuff, I think were resolved. Like, what's your vision here, Joe? Are you guys looking at doing a second-generation style building, 3 stories kind of thing, that fits in with that building motif between 9th and 10th?
We haven't really decided yet if we're gonna do a 2-story or a 3-story. We're leaning more towards the 3-story, but we've already have some money spent on designs and drawings for a 2-story. We already have H&A approval for the 2-story, so we still gotta have a little bit of conversations about that, but we're leaning towards the 3-story.
Okay.
And then, I don't think that will change the foundation plan that's in your packet, though, the foundation.
Well, I guess
footprint
that's my
is
big
the
question,
same, yeah.
because I don't,
You have time for that.
I'd rather, honestly, I'd rather hold off and sell it to a user that I know is gonna put a 3-story second-generation building in. And I know that there was some concern about this, and that's why it wasn't considered but we haven't sold the property and we haven't built anything. There's been money spent on designs, and I get that, and that's fair. But we're not so far down the road that I feel like it's too soon to turn the aircraft carrier, you know? That would be very meaningful, I think, to the cityscape and kind of to what we're trying to do with building a stronger town, which is, you know, going, building up, and that wealth is, I think, the right direction. That'd be my only concern on it. You've done magnificent work in the city, and we're very blessed to have, you know, Boss doing all the work that they have. I would just like some better commitments about what you want to do.
Okay, well,
I have some different questions. Is that okay, Mayor?
Of course.
Okay. Doesn't the property, if it's owned by the city, need to be up for public auction, not just one person buying it? Because when I looked up the rules, for what I know a little bit about municipalities with Illinois Municipal Code, and I guess this question will be for Sunny, do you I mean, you can explain it better than to me, but I looked up 65 ILCS 5-11-76-3 and going down it, I believe it has to go to like a bid process for selling public land, or am I completely mistaken there?
You could do either one. The statute provides for either sale or by public bid. The actual sale requires 2/3 vote of the corporate office holders. That would include the mayor. So as long as there's a 2/3 votes, it could be done by sale. The resolution includes a finding that this parcel is declared to be a surplus. Obviously, the city's not going to build a building on this. It's not useful for the city in the best interest of the city to maintain. So if the 2/3 of the corporate, the trustees and also the mayor, the older persons and the mayor vote in favor of it, it is sufficient.
But it would seem that we should be more transparent just to offer an open bid. We're not getting at the fair, well, we've paid more for this land that we're offering it to sell it to you, is what I'm reading.
Actually,
No,
no,
you
that's-
misunderstand.
That's incorrect. The full parcel that the city acquired is valued, appraised by a, MEI appraiser to be $90,000. What is being proposed
It's
is
half the
selling
sale, though.
half of it, which is appraised value would be $45,000.
And that appraisal was in your packet.
But I would think that the front part that is on State Street would be the valuable part, not the parking lot. The
No,
parking,
there's an appraisal report that's included in the packet that specifically states that portion that the city is selling is valued at $45,000, based upon comparables, based upon other properties, based upon similar use. So there is what would require by statute a MEI appraisal, and the city is only required to make sure that that property is sold at least 80% of that appraised value. And in this case, it's being sold at 100% of the appraised value.
well, I would still like to see it go to bid, whether it be, published in the paper. Maybe there's another person who would like to buy it. That's how I would feel on that one. It should be known to the public, maybe another investor would like to buy it and build a building there. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Mayor, I mean, I would like to second what Sonny has said. In my previous experience with another public body, when we had pieces of property that we wanted to sell with that previous public body, we were able to go privately to individuals. And the exact rules that Sonny set out were the exact rules that were told to the voting members of that public body. So I'm fine with going forward. And I would also echo the mayor's comments about trying to match the block, possibly trying to do a third-story building. So
Okay.
I just second what she says.
And actually, Mayor, I'd just like to just put my 2 cents in. Come to think of it, I have some properties that I'm selling for the village in the south suburban area. And like you said, you have to at least sell it for 80% of the appraised value. In this case, you said it's 100% because it's $45,000 appraisal. So really, we are within that, obviously the range of value. I guess my question is, I don't recall them ever going out to bid on the property. Does it matter what value it is? Because the ones that I acquired to sell for the village, they did not have to do that.
And again, that's by choice of the public body. If they voted to put it out for bid, it does not require supermajority vote. If they do put it out for sale for at least 80% of the appraised value, and that's why the statute has those cushions in there, so you're not giving it to somebody that somebody on the public body may know, and Joe Smith down the street going, okay, we'll give it to you for, $1 or $10. There are, obviously findings in the resolution. You're finding that Boss Properties has the financial wherewithal to complete this project. You're finding that there's a need, especially in the historic area, and that this buyer has the experience and the knowledge and past, product that indicates that they are able to, be able to revitalize and bring up the historic value of this area. And that's one of the concerns that I'm sure everyone on this dais is, is promoting. So those are the type of protections that is in the statute. So yeah, you can't just give it to Joe Smith down the block or relate it to somebody on this public body. So that's the protection. And obviously, if the majority of the city council believe that this should go for a public bid, that could be a motion that could be made. If there's, a strong movement toward that someone could move to do that. But at this point, the resolution is to declare this parcel, this half of a parcel, to be surplus, and that the best qualified person to develop that property within the parameters of the historic district is Boss Properties.
And don't forget, the back portion, we are utilizing for the public parking lot, so that's why that parcel up front is also left over, so.
I just point out that we have that other parcel, where Lockport Lanes used to be, and we've talked about giving that away, and we can't get anybody to take it. So I think having somebody willing to pay, the assessed value, and who has a track record of doing really good work, and understanding what the city, what makes it, gives it value, it makes sense to me, so. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I got it. I wasn't aware there was we were concerned about the building going up. I'm part of H&A. I was wondering if, Lance, could you please give us an update on what we have seen for the building that has been rejected and then kind of approved? I don't know if people are aware of what has happened with that, because I know we started with the 3-story tower or whatever that H&A has gotten rid of. So maybe we can have an update from you on that.
Yeah, so there have been 3 different plans that have been presented to H&A. The first one was a plan that had I believe a 2-story mass with a large tower in the front. It wasn't usable space, but it was a large tower, kind of an iconic element. Through some discussions with the H&A Commission, we ultimately talked about whether or not that's appropriate for the downtown, for the function that building would have. The applicant came back with an option that was more consistent with our sister city relationship with Asiago in Italy. The commission found, and the applicant ultimately agreed that that probably wasn't appropriate for our National Historic District in its relation with the Midwest and the types of, the typologies of buildings that are constructed in our downtown. So ultimately, what was approved was a two-story Greek Revival building, which is similar to, but not exactly the same, the original building that was on that particular parcel of land. The size, the quality, different things like that are dramatically different from what was originally there. Originally there, it was pretty much a clapboard building that had some Greek Revival detailing on it. This was obviously an updated version of that that took into consideration modern ceiling heights and utilities and all that kind of stuff. So that was what was ultimately approved. Since that point, we have had some internal discussions with the applicant just about the future of that portion of that block in the downtown. You know, in our historic preservation report that was done as a part of our downtown kind of study a number of years ago, this block in particular, and specifically the whole basically between Tallgrass and the Stagecoach building, not the Stagecoach Saloon, but the Stagecoach building where next to the Cakery Bakery now, is really one of the worst holes architecturally that we have in the downtown. And so we started to have some conversations with the applicant about whether or not they would be open to considering doing a three-story building, which would be consistent with the 1000 State Street building, which is the corner otherwise known as the Opera House building, consistent with the, you know, a number of the other structures that are in the downtown, and to start to set the stage for the filling in of this hole that we have architecturally in our downtown. So those have been the conversations that had been started. That is what the mayor is referring to. As you heard, the applicant is considering it and is thinking about it. It would obviously require resubmittal to H&A, and we would have to re-review that proposal as a part of that. I think what the applicant has said is that regardless of whether it's a 2 or a 3-story building, the foundation as it relates to this particular project is consistent with what would be needed, whether it was a 3-story building or a 2-story building. It's basically building out a foundation on the lot as it is. So it doesn't really impact that structurally so much. And so that gives us a little bit of time. If the council ultimately decides that, yes, this is the appropriate way forward for the property, we do have some time to mitigate all the H&A meetings that we would need to go to if there is a change in the design that would occur. Does that help, JR?
Yes, it does.
Okay, yep.
All right, if there's nothing else, we could put it on for an action item.
Can you just remind me how much we paid for that lot? The total lot, and just show me the picture?
Sure, yeah, that's what you're looking at on the screen now. If
So
you're,
how much do we pay for the, because I know there was also, we bought other property too. So how much do we pay for that
that
lot?
one was 95,000.
Yeah, we paid $95,000 plus closing costs, so
Plus,
$98,000, yeah.
And how much do we pay for the lot behind that, behind Jackie's then?
That is including that.
That's including that. So not just the blue? The blue alone is 98?
Well, 95, the purchase price was 95. The whole entire blue.
The lot
what you
behind
see-
that is the AT&T building.
The little one, yeah, the one
I
way back
understand
there is
that.
18.
I think what's being referred to is,
There, that,
go back to that last picture, was it that plus a little bit to the north, or
No.
just that?
no,
No.
just the blue highlighted area.
So
Okay.
the actual parcel includes the top, but the sale was only for the southern portion of Lot 3 on that parcel,
Because
so.
Jackie's Pub is also conveying that amount of space as an easement for the public parking lot as well. So she gave that up for the parking lot, just like we're giving
Yeah,
up
she
the back
didn't
half.
give it up, she gave us easement rights.
Correct, yeah. whatever you
So
wanna say.
she didn't
So
sell that
Jackie
part.
still owns the part to the north,
That's not in blue,
not
correct?
in blue. And then the part to the south, do we pay for any of that?
Nope,
So all we've paid for is 98,000 for the blue,
correct.
plus realtor fees, or is there more?
No, closing.
Closing costs.
Closing costs, yeah.
So what, and that's including the closing cost, the 98? Or is that extra?
No, it was a little more.
And how much was that?
The purchase price itself was $95,000. The closing cost was close to $3,000.
And then did we have to pay for appraisals and all that too?
We had paid for an appraisal, I don't know, a year prior, or
And how much was that?
It's in your packet. It's like $500, $900, whatever it is.
So close to 100,000 then total.
Fair.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll put it on for an action item. Thanks. Yeah, I guess so, our next
Whatever
meeting, right?
yes.
All right, Sonny, if we can jump down to AT2.
Yes. AT2, my packet's out of order. This is the second amendment to the Economic Incentive Agreement with Lockport Square LLC. As you could tell, off of I-355 on 159th Street, we're almost there. We're just moving the goal line. This is the second amendment that merely changes the opening date for the hotel from what was stated in the First Amendment from December 31st of this year to July 1, 2021. I believe the actual hotel will be open and operating way before then, but just to give us enough cushion, that is the date. It doesn't change the sharing of the tax, the hotel tax. It does not change any of the schedule of how the tax will be distributed. So it merely changes the date. It's to accommodate for the delay in opening due to the pandemic. It's an unforeseen, nobody knew a year ago that this was going to happen. So it's considered to be a force majeure, which means that, act of God or something that prevented the opening. So there is nothing major about any substantive changes for the original agreement or the First Amendment. So if there's any questions, I would be more than happy to entertain them.
We got anything?
I do have a couple questions. Of course I do. So the first question I have is, what if they don't complete it? Do we have any say in that? I know we're going to extend it past. The reason I ask that is so my question is, are there any cons to this? What if they don't complete it? Right now, the travel industry is kind of at a halt. That is my favorite thing in the world. And so I looked up some of the hotels. September 8th, Marriott was set to lay off 17% of their corporate headquarters, and that was in October. 673 employees in Maryland. Then this is worse. This impact of COVID is worse than September 11th attacks and the 2008 financial crisis. Hyatt laid off 130 employees, 22% of their workforce. Hilton eliminated 2,100 corporate roles, or 22%. And the U.S. hotels are not expected to fully recover until 2024. And I can cite the sources if you want. Construction financing has essentially evaporated due to the pandemic, June 12, 2020.
Catherine,
I'm just asking.
Why don't you just,
What are you asking?
you're not asking a question
No,
anymore.
I'm just
You-
asking.
You asked
I
a
wanna
question
know-
of what will happen if they don't
Yes.
complete it. You can
So-
stop there and let them
Well,
answer.
Yeah, I just want to
Sonny,
know.
what's the answer if there's no
I want a
completion?
hotel. I'm not going to say I don't, but what happens if they don't? Do we have any checks and balances, and we're extending this for them to complete? Is that how I read it?
If they don't build and open, they don't get paid the incentive.
Okay, but do we have anything if they
Pretty
don't
simple.
finish it? And then
There-
we're extending it to give them
Private
more
I
time.
I haven't reviewed the original one recently, but I know at least for the car dealership, there are what's called the delay, where they're assessed, some monetary amount for not opening on the date that they agreed to. So there are provisions like that. I can't.
Jim, do you want to comment at all? The developers taking a chance on Lockport, and we appreciate their investment in
I'm
the
not,
community.
I just want to know.
And this incentive, it was set up with the best intentions, but we lost a half a year because of COVID, and they're asking us to give them some additional time. I believe they plan to open in March, and we've just given them a little extra space just in case they need more time for construction, and they fully in turn plan to open and operate at their own risk, right? It's their
Yeah,
private
no,
money.
I
investment.
agree. I want them to come here. I just want to know, what do we have in place in case it doesn't recover? Is there anything?
There are actually, legal defense for not opening up. I mean, we could be hit with a storm of a century, or there could be a nuclear bomb, or there could be something that is like act of God that you can't prevent. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, obviously, this is why it's called an economic incentive, so that the earlier that they open up, the faster that they get their share in the hotel tax rebate.
I mean,
That's the mechanism. It's more of the carrot versus the stick, and we really can't predict what's going to happen. This merely gives them more of a realistic deadline to open based upon the unforeseen, unprecedented circumstances of COVID-19 pandemic.
I think the loss of the incentive by the timeline is incentive enough to get open. I
Because
mean,
they're still going to get the full incentive at the end of the day.
only
right?
if they open.
Only if they open, I agree with you there.
By the extension, we are agreeing that this has been an unusual time, so we're giving them extra time. They're clearly out there working like beavers, so it's not like nobody's out there doing anything. I can imagine that their mindset is that they've gone this far only to throw in the towel. They're just asking for a little bit more time. And they will potentially lose an incentive if they don't reach that date. Other than that, I don't see that we're out there to, as Ben said, to whack them with a stick.
No,
And it's a shared revenue thing, so if they're not open, making revenues and generating taxes, they don't get anything back. So I don't,
And
what are you
diff-
suggesting?
yeah.
What would you
no,
like to?
I'm just asking what the cons are then, because,
There's no cons.
so it's either we just have to extend it, and then we don't get to change
You
any.
have the choice to not
We don't get to
extend it.
change any contracts with them. I know, I'm just asking. Are you from Holiday Inn? I'm sorry.
You don't know who Jim Puritan is?
Well, I didn't know why he
Wow.
wanted to talk. Why did you?
Well, he wanted to talk because you
You
asked the
asked the
same question
question.
6 times.
He was here to answer your question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know why you had recommended him when I brought that up. You can talk, I'm sorry, sir.
As the mayor said, had we not started the hotel, it might be a different story, but it started before COVID, and we're just slowed down because the workers can't be close to one another, among other things.
Okay,
So it's just taking longer, especially when they come in to do the bedding and bring in the FF&E. The trades inside can't be close. The outside went up fast.
Yes.
But the inside can't be done as fast as it would have been on the normal schedule.
okay, so is another 6 months enough time, or?
Yeah, no, we're hoping that, hoping the vaccine comes so we can open for the wedding season in June.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, we can put this on for a consent. Everybody good? All right, consent, please. And then lastly, before we get to our big powwow, if we could throw CED 1 up on the agenda.
So this is a stop grant for the building located at 913 South Sixth Street. The applicant, Adam Giuliano, is requesting the grant for the replacement of his rear deck and stairs that is visible from Commerce Street or up Southern Bridge and Canal Street. The property is in the C4 downtown commercial area, which is in the target area for the side grant program. It is a rear entrance improvement, which meets most of the criteria in the eligibility section of the application. In addition, this falls under the stairs, porches, railings, and exits category of the eligible improvement section. We have received bids, 3 bids for the porch, deck, and stairs. Those are on your form. We are recommending reimbursement amount of $13,747.75. The applicant was before H&A last night, received his COA, and he's ready to move forward.
All right, any questions, concerns? All right, looks good. It could be a great fix back there, so. All right, we'll put that on consent then. Okay, I think that takes care of any guests that we have here petitioning, so we can go back to our CA1, or CA2 rather, sorry. Before we get to that and you introduce it, with everybody in the room, I just want to say on behalf of the council, we thank you so much for all the hard work that everybody here does. It's a lot of effort to do, show up to meetings and read packets and be as thorough as you all are, and it's hugely appreciated by the citizens, even though they may not even know that you exist, right? I mean, most people don't know what an H&A is, or even planning and zoning, but we certainly do, and we greatly appreciate all the efforts and hard work that you do for the city of Lockport. So I just wanted to say that before we get rolling. All right. Okay.
So, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I'm not sure if we have ever had all 3 organizations in the room at the same time.
It's like all the planets aligning.
Yeah, right.
Plant your mic.
What? So this is actually really great to have all of these minds in the same room, because all of you bring specific information and knowledge to this effort, historical knowledge, best practices knowledge, current scenarios, all that kind of stuff, which is so very helpful for this process. To introduce it, Mike Hoffman and Emma Swanson are from Tesca Associates. They are our consultant for this process. The project is to update the zoning code and the comprehensive plan for our fair city, both of which, as I have stated before, are many years old and in due need of updating and revisions. And this is our opportunity to do that. What Mike and Emma are here tonight to do is to help walk us through, all three organizations and groups, as well as city staff, walk us through a very concise visioning session to try and get feedback from everybody to help us kind of launch the comprehensive plan section of this process. We are also concurrently going through the zoning code with a working group. Some of the members are here tonight. A lot of them are staff. We do have a couple of members from the public and both of our Plan and Zoning Commission who serve on that. We are going to be going through the zoning code in phases, so in chunks. So we are going to have our first meeting the first week of November to review the first section, and then the next month will be the next section, next month will be the next section. So by the end of the year, plus or minus, we should have gone at least through a first draft of most everything, and then also the comprehensive plan. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thanks, Lance. Do I need to press this, or is it on?
It's on. All right. It's off now.
Green or red? I should
Yeah.
be able to figure
Green.
it out, right? There we go. We're back. All right, cool. So, pleasure to be here tonight. I'm with Tesca Associates. We are a community planning and landscape architecture firm. I have worked on a lot of comprehensive plans and zoning ordinances over the years. I won't tell you a number, but a bunch. What I want to do tonight is just kind of give you a quick round. Lance Evick gave a preview of some of the things we're doing, but we're working on a comprehensive plan and a zoning ordinance. We'll talk through that a little bit and talk about how those two relate to each other, because I think that's important. Talk a little bit about where Lockport is today. Talk a little bit about some of your past planning efforts that we're trying to merge into one document. And then I kind of want to get some ideas and thoughts from you guys. So we're going to do some fun exercises to get at what you feel is the vision for the future of the community. So as an introduction, comprehensive plan and zoning, two different things. It's important to understand the difference between these two. Comprehensive plan is more big picture, more guidance, more, where do we want to see, where do we see ourselves in 10, 20 years? It's designed to focus on growth and development of the community, but it's also designed to be a flexible tool. You want to be consistent with your comprehensive plan, but particularly as your plan gets older, in the 5, 10, 20-year range, the world shifts, obviously, right? And so you need to be responsive to that. So you may vary from your comprehensive plan a little bit from time to time. On the other hand, your zoning ordinance is law. It says specifically what you can do and specifically what you can't do. And so it is important to understand the differences between those two, and it's very important to make sure that those two things are consistent. So some of the benefits of doing those things together is we can make sure that the vision we cast in the comprehensive plan is easily done with your tools that you're in the zoning ordinance. What you don't want to do is have a great vision in your comprehensive plan and then create a development process that takes years to get through for a developer and discourages from doing what you want them to do. So having that consistency and doing them essentially simultaneously like we're doing is a great way to make sure that those things are running in parallel to each other and facilitating the types of developments you would like to see in the community. Comprehensive plan, first of all, we start with understanding your existing conditions. We're going to highlight some of the highlights of that tonight, where we are today, essentially. It outlines the vision of where you would like to be in the future, and then it talks about how we want to get there, what steps are needed to get the community moving in that direction or continue in that same direction if you're happy with where you're headed right now. It is looking at making the community fiscally balanced so that we can not have huge high tax rates and those kind of things, right? We want to make sure that the economics work for the community, and we want to make sure that it's a great place for everybody in the community to live. And it needs to clearly talk about how we're going to evaluate the success of that plan, right? We want to make sure that we can track, that we're on track, essentially, and moving forward in the direction that everybody wants to do that. And to do this well, we need a room full of people like this, and really the entire community to be wrapped around these ideas and make sure that we're hearing all different types of viewpoints and perspectives on the development process and where the community would like to go in the future. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're trying to do with the comprehensive plan. Now, you guys are not starting from scratch. You've done a lot of good planning in this community, and particularly special areas of the town, of the downtown, and some of your corridors, you've already done that, so we're not going to reinvent those things. What we're trying to do is pull them together in one consistent and concise document that hits the highlights of those things, references those if you need more detail, but looks at them in a way that pulls them together and is easy to usable for the community. So I'll talk about that. That's good. Lance mentioned that we've got a working group. We really find that's very helpful to take, particularly zoning ordinances, in chunks and do pieces at a time. There is a lot to look at in the zoning code, from signs to landscaping to specific uses in the community and setbacks and regulations of specific codes. So we do that in pieces, and we're going to be using that same group to work on the comprehensive plan. So again, we can get that consistency between the two areas and work through that in a way that really works for the community. They'll be reviewing different pieces as we go through the process, making sure that we're on track all the way through. What I don't want to do is, go back to my office and draft something and then come back to you 4 months later and realize that we totally missed something or we're not consistent with the view that you have of the community. So that regular monthly check-in is going to be a great tool for us and for you, I think, to make sure that we are on track and meeting the objectives of the community. Timeline-wise, we started a little over a month ago, I guess. We're having this joint workshop now in October. Our game plan is to really have this wrapped up in March or so, which is a really fast timeline. I've worked on comprehensive plans that have taken 1.5 years in length, and same thing for zoning ordinances, actually. But as we mentioned, you've got a lot of the tools already in place in terms of your comprehensive plan. And really, your zoning ordinance, while there's definitely things that we want to tweak and change, isn't terrible. I mean, it's not like throwing it out and starting over again. We're kind of build on the good parts of it and tweak the parts that need a little tweaking. But we are doing this in a pretty short time frame that I think will be efficient and get you the tools that you need quickly so that you're ready for next development season. Where we are today, we've looked at some of the demographics of the community, and Emma's going to talk to those for a second.
Yeah, so can everyone hear me? Lockport has a strong growing population of 26,000. Your median age is 37.4, and you have a healthy median household income around 89,000 there. This is a comparison of Lockport to Will County. You have really high school graduation rates, high college degree rates, and a relatively low no high school diploma rate as well. And this graph is the unemployment rate in Lockport. So you can see there's August of 19, July of 20, and August of 20. And Lockport compares very well to the Chicago region, the state, and the United States as a whole. And then this one shows employment of Lockport residents and employment in Lockport. Your biggest industry sectors are healthcare, education, and retail trade. And some of your biggest resident employment locations are Chicago, Joliet, and then Lockport itself.
So we also are in the process of looking at residential trends in the community. Lance has been a wealth of information about those kind of things, but we have also talked to some developers in the community to get a handle on what's going on, as well as doing some general research. And what we're finding is that residential is actually very strong in this community. Folks that are building houses are building way more houses than they would have guessed that they would, particularly after COVID. That's going really well. and in both multifamily and single-family really are going very well, and the demand has been very strong in both areas. So that is a strong positive in terms of the economy and where things are. This just looks at your development trends over the past range of years. Essentially what you're seeing there is that in the kind of 2000 to 2015 range, you were averaging probably around 25 or so building permits that are on new residential units. That ramped up fairly significantly in 2016, 2017 to in the range of 100 to 120 or so, and that continues to grow. This is a slightly different format, but essentially what you're seeing there is around 140, 150 or so. I mean, the year isn't over obviously yet, but you're going to be well over 140, I'm sure, probably close to 150, maybe even more than that this year. So the trend is definitely on the upswing in terms of the number of units, and you have a lot of, as you see at the bottom of that chart there, 515 total housing units kind of in process or available for future development. So you've got room to continue that positive momentum in the residential realm. So that's a very positive trend. And the picture is also actually very good in the commercial area. You have got a significant downtown revitalization things going on. We talked about some of that earlier tonight, as a matter of fact. Pretty good occupancy in most of your spaces. Your industrial space, some of your parks are completely built out. One's got a little bit of a space in it left to the south end of town, but in general, that has been pretty solid and pretty strong too. So overall, from an economic development perspective, I'd say the economy is doing pretty well. You guys have looked at your sales tax numbers, and actually you haven't had a huge dip because of COVID, which is great. So that's been a strong positive, and some of your chain stores like Chipotle and Panera are some of the best performing stores in the region. So that's all very positive and speaks very well of the community and the work that you guys have done to attract appropriate and good, strong businesses in the community. So lots of positives in terms of the commercial development trends as well. This just looks at building permits and inspection numbers. Again, pretty solid, pretty strong. Your building permits went from 500 and something last year to 748 years to date. That's pretty healthy growth, particularly in a pandemic year, right? So it's kind of mind-boggling actually, but in a good way. Except if you're working bazillion hours overtime doing some of that maybe, but nonetheless, it is a good thing and a positive sign for the economy. Lance gave us a great tour of the community. This is way too small for you guys to read, I know, but just pointing out some of the things that we observed in the community and things that we'll be taking a look at. Your prime business campus down there, and that's been sitting somewhat undeveloped for a number of years, so we'll be looking at that area. We'll be looking at the corridors, certainly. We'll be looking at some of the fringe areas around downtown in particular, both areas that are transitioning a little bit residentially and some of the areas around the edge of the downtown that might have a slightly different zoning and may need to take a look at those things. And then, of course, some of the things that have been identified in the 71 corridor study that is out there, and looking at some of the properties that are where you got conditions where you got some property that's in town, some property that's not in town, and how do we deal with those kind of things. So those are all kind of pieces that we'll be looking at in this review process. We also, as I said, looked at some of your past plans, and Emma's going to hit those real quick.
Yeah, Mike said that you guys have done some good planning stuff in the past. This is your strategic plan that you guys just did for 2020 to 2022. It builds on some of the past plans and community input and creates a strategy for how to address the key priorities that you guys identified over the next few years. So there were 6 priorities identified, which is shown on the left side of the screen there. And like I said, those are based on community input. And for each one, you provide a vision statement, goal, strategy, and action. This is another plan that you guys recently did. It's the Route 171 corridor study. Some of the objectives from the plan was to establish a market-supported brand for that area that projects the city's status as a high-quality community. Also to attract high-quality investment and development in the area, and overall to elevate the corridor's character. There was also the bicycle master plan, which was completed in 2019. This builds on your previous 2003 bicycle master plan and connects to the Will Connects 2040 plan and the Will County Bikeway Plan from 2016. So this plan provides recommendations for various types of bicycle facilities, and those fall within 3 categories, which was network and facilities, policy and programs, and funding. And then you also have your downtown master plan from 2009, which is a little bit older, but still very relevant. Some of the objectives from that plan include establishing the historic downtown Lockport as a regional destination for tourism and recreation, creating a business attraction and retention strategy, and expanding the property tax revenues through new infill development and property value enhancements. And then you have your I-355 corridor master plan update. This focuses on specific sub-areas, including the 143rd Street sub-area, and establishing a retail and commercial node there. The 159th Street sub-area, which should be intensely developed as the I-355 corridor's primary commercial node, and finally the Bruce Road sub-area. So looking at that for the future Bruce Road interchange at I-355.
So now the fun part. Everybody, usually you tell you to turn off your phone and don't bring it. I hope everybody has a phone tonight, because we're gonna do some fun stuff with that. So grab your phone if you got it, or a laptop if you got a laptop, or whatever you've got. But go to minty.com and type in that code there. You just type in no spaces or anything else, 6424645, and hit submit. And you will see, oh, absolutely, the number's on the top of the screen, 6424645. Is it working? Yeah. Thank you. First one's obviously a fun question. It's not really related to the comprehensive plan, but it's just to make sure that everybody is getting logged in and it's working okay. If you have any questions or anything, Emma would be happy to go around and help you get connected. It's right on the top, 6524645. How many people we got in the room? 1, 2, 4, 5, 30. All right. So we probably got 2/3 of you in so far.
So if you connect your phone to the room Wi-Fi,
Does anybody need help? Everybody got it?
I feel like I'm at a ball game. It's easier to see. It's either gonna be the small sausage or the bratwurst.
At the rate.
Yeah, we probably should have had a few less apples and some other things on the list, but nonetheless, you get the idea. 24. Okay. Getting there.
I'm not gonna share it with friends, no way. Did you get that? Do you want to share them?
Everybody good?
One room password with friends.
You want us to vote?
Yeah. Yeah. This one's just for fun, obviously, but just to make sure that it's working and everybody got in okay and everything, that would be awesome. If I was voting, I would have voted caramel apple as well, so. Double votes. All right, if everybody's good with that, we're going to move on to the next one, which is more of a real question. How do you describe Lockport, how would you describe Lockport today? Just one or two word answers to this, but you know, what words would you describe to describe Lockport as it is today? So we need some more answers here. You're like 28 or so. Yeah, everybody's encouraged to participate. So we are definitely historic and growing and friendly. And then when you start looking at this a little bit closer, when we finally analyze it, we're going to kind of merge some terms that are almost identical. People don't necessarily, like, one says family friendly, one says friendly. I don't think there's much difference there. So we can merge things like that. But this obviously is what's called a wordle, and the larger the word, the more people use that same word, right? So most people used, the most common responses were growing, historic, and friendly when we did that, which is cool. Of course, I just gave you a PowerPoint talking about the growth, so maybe I biased it a little bit there, I don't know, but nonetheless. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question. What do you like most about living or working in Lockport? Again, kind of a one or two word answer.
Aaron Diskin.
Number one.
Renee Saban, really?
All right, so we definitely like the people that live in the community, which is awesome. Small town feel made it up there, and your favorite alderman made it up there well too. Very cool. All right, lots of safe and that kind of thing. Schools, yeah. All right, cool. All right, next question. What would you like Lockport to be like in 20 years? So thinking out in the future a little bit. Okay, so we still need a few more. All right, let's take a second and talk about, you can still keep typing it in if you're still working on it, but destination came out as kind of the top answer here. What would it look like to be, what type of destination do we want Lockport to be? Anybody that kind of said that or would think about it? What specifically are you thinking? The destination for what? Great place to live, entertainment, working, all the above?
Something multifaceted.
It's something that people want to come and see that we have to offer.
Okay. Okay, what else we got? Thriving downtown, that kind of explains itself. Town feel, historic thriving, the same, okay. All right. All right, cool. There we go. There's the next one. What are the greatest challenges in reaching that vision? So to being a destination, to being the same, as some people said, or whatever your specific vision was, what are some things that we're going to have to face to be able to get there or remain there? All right, we got 28 responses. You can only see some of them up on the screen. We'll flip to the rest of them in a minute. But anybody want to comment on anything that they put on there, like overcoming past beliefs and preconceived notions? Give me an example of overcoming some past belief that we got to do.
Past belief, who said that one? Well, the preconceived notions, I think, is that we don't deserve to go ahead and develop into something that other places are, okay? The most common thing I hear is, well, we don't want to become a Naperville, to which I say, well, why not? Naperville is a destination place. Why can't Lockport be a destination place? Past beliefs are, we're an old town, and now this was not my answer. My past beliefs are, well, we've never done it that way before, so we can't change. So we've seen a lot of that change in that thought process over the last few years, but that seems to be one of the things I've noticed.
Okay, that helps. Anybody want to comment on any other things that they put on this question? Because they're all a little bit different. I mean, there's a couple of them that are related to the economy, and to some extent, that's a little out of your control. But it's certainly something that could have a major impact. They want to comment on any other ones? Okay, if not, we will move on. Okay, so now, that was the phone part of it. We thought, too many of these phone things, and it gets annoying to type them all in and everything else. So we're gonna go old school and go on pad and paper now. Now, when you guys did your strategic plan late last year, you did do a SWOT analysis as a part of that, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, with strengths and weaknesses being essentially internal things that you can control, and opportunities and threats. I use the word challenge because, I don't know, I look at it more positively, I guess, than the threat, right? But it's essentially similar things, but a challenge you can overcome, whereas a threat, sometimes it's just a threat. So let's do that. When you did it before, you were focusing, I think, pretty much specifically on city government, which you should have been. It's a strategic plan for the city council, right? This is really a little bit broader than that, and we're thinking entire community. When I'm doing a comprehensive plan, I'm thinking about things that are the city's responsibilities, as well as parks and schools and everything that really makes Lockport a great community. So it's a little bit broader than that. So have a little bit broader vision when we're talking about these things, right? So strengths, I can already tell you from the exercise we just did that people is a strength, or perceived as strong strength, and friendly were two that I remember from that first slide that I would write down as strengths on our list. But what are some other strengths? And you guys can just shout them out and we'll record them on the list. But things that you think are particularly strengths of Lockport. Elwood, yeah, that park, right, yeah.
I'd say our location.
Location, absolutely. I&M Canal Trail.
Good answer. Good schools. We have good schools.
Good
that
schools.
attract, people.
Okay. Great historic buildings. Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry, what was the last one? Low crime rate.
Yeah, really good.
3 interstate interchanges.
Yep.
3 interstate interchanges.
2 existing, 1 planned.
Hmm? Museums and other attractions, okay? Open land. You got room to grow, right? Absolutely. Good leadership. I missed that one. Low cost of living, okay?
I think there is some diversity in our housing stock. You can live in one subdivision or another, and they're very different from one another.
Varied
So
housing,
some diversity.
yes. Absolutely. Okay.
Independence in water.
Yeah.
Okay. Water independence.
Yeah, I guess it's true. We have a solid city, foundation and government with, meaning not a council, but like, police department, a public works department, a water department, these things. Just watching what's going on in Homer Glen makes you be grateful that we've got those things settled. So that's a strength.
All right. Good municipal services. And people running those services. All right, cool. All right, let's look at some weaknesses. All right, what are some of the challenges you guys have, not challenges, what are the weaknesses, the internal weaknesses that you have in Lockport right now?
Can I say location again? If we can move to Tennessee, the whole town, maybe we'd be.
159th Street Bridge, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Too many
That's
taxi
the location thing, yeah.
Yeah, that is a challenge.
Trucks.
Trucks.
I think a weakness is that people have a general tendency to only be concerned with what they think they want in the next 2 weeks versus looking 30 to 40 years into the future.
Short-term. Short-term thinking, yeah, that's good. Short-term thinking.
Short-sighted, it's just short-term
Short-sighted.
thinking.
Short-term thinking. Okay.
I also think that some of the weaknesses is that we're still not considered big enough for the big chain restaurants to come into Lockport. It's like, no matter what you do, you're just never big enough to attract them to come in.
We straddle 2 townships. It causes identity issues because of the connection with Homer Glen and Homer Township.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I think one of our weaknesses is that there are a lot of people in town who still see us as old versus new, west of Farrell, east of Farrell.
Okay. So, yeah.
The 2 townships.
Yeah, 2 townships, you're right, yeah.
Yeah. High taxes.
At least for,
Overall.
I would say we don't have a lot of things for children in the sense that we have so many different school districts, 7 school districts for the grade schools, but not a lot of birthday places or activities or anything for children to do. So a lot of people go out of town for children activities.
Okay. So weakness is limited children's activities. Got it. Other weaknesses? We don't want many of those, right? So I can move on, but no, I mean, did I miss anything significant? Okay. I think you already got it. Taxes, right, yeah, okay. All right, so, wait, I didn't want to move to the next slide yet. Hang on a minute. Let me go back. There we go. All right, opportunities. So these are things that are not necessarily happening right now, but could be happening in the future. They're potentially beyond your boundaries or bigger picture things that are out there that, you know, a new type of development that you think you'd really like to attract or, okay, tourism, yes. All right, that's a good example.
I would love to see the baseball fields double look like the baseball fields at Hampton Park.
Okay, so improved ball fields at Delwood Park. Okay.
Additional density downtown.
Additional residential downtown.
Shopping downtown.
No.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Parking garage.
Possible parking garage is what he said. I have strong opinions of that, but I will not talk about those today. Okay, other opportunities.
Say, development of more outdoor activities, specifically utilizing land.
Okay, so outdoor recreational opportunities, yes, absolutely.
And connected, better multimodal connections throughout the community.
Better multimodal connections. That's good.
I also think we have good opportunities connecting with cities around us, like, you know, as Lamont builds up their kind of corridor with the Forge and, you know, what's going on up there, and we have, you know, Delwood Park and the paintball and Haunted House, and we have this trail that connects. There's lots of opportunities to create this corridor as a destination, and then even continuing on down as, you know, the prison in Joliet becomes an entertainment thing. You have a really nice 3-city destination area that is an opportunity for us to develop.
Yeah, regional destination opportunities or something like that, but yeah, absolutely, working with your neighbors. And
Private partnerships, we've done a good, like, it's almost like continue to be considered. We've done a lot of, you know, development deals, whether it's a recent one on the agenda or back to Embers, and, you know, we've pushed the envelope of being more proactive than reactive where we can, and I think continuing public-private partnerships is a good.
Public-private partnerships, yes. Good. Okay, let's talk about some challenges that the community faces. I mean, we're all wearing masks today. That's the challenge that we didn't anticipate a while back, right? But what are some other challenges that you think that Lockport will face? You talked about the good water. Is your water well, or is it Lake Michigan?
Well,
Well, okay, so are there limitations to that, or is your water pretty good? I don't know the answer to the question.
Well, I think ultimately the answer is yes. When we say, oh, there's 50 years of water, that's freaking going to go by fast. So it needs to be like, if you're Varna in Bulgaria, that's been a city for 5,000 years, that's what I call sustainable, right? Saying, we got enough water for 50 years, not so much. So I think those resources are always something to be thinking about.
Okay. We'll put down water as a challenge. What are some other challenges?
distribution center is west of 53.
Distribution center is west of 53.
Yeah, managing the new economy, right? People don't like warehouses, at the same time they're ordering something online. And so managing that with expectations within the community and understanding that the days of the shopping mall or the power center are not coming back in any of the foreseeable future, and how do we manage that with needing the distribution centers and dealing with, the deliveries up to your door and seeing all the Amazon trucks and the UPS trucks go out. How do we manage all of this in our new world? And also, trying to look at that doesn't mean that's the end all, right? Things change all the time, I'm sure. So what happens next beyond that? So.
Creation of professional jobs, okay?
Yeah. I also think finding ways to build affordable housing that, doesn't put people in a place where either, they're, like we mentioned, we have great housing diversity. You can live in the old part of town and your taxes aren't bad. You can live in another part of town and your taxes are outrageous. And so, but that also goes to, if you're going to build a 3-level brick thing with an acre, it doesn't lend itself to sustainable taxes, right? And so how can we create a housing stock that is affordable for people, that doesn't just strap them, everything is about their mortgage, and at the same time make that palatable to the community, who absolutely is terrified for any house that's worth less than theirs when it's built. So that kind of communication and buy-in from the residents to create something for our future, for young people, and other ways to live and thrive in our city.
Yeah, that balance and maintaining that diversity is always a challenge, right? To make sure that you're thinking of ways to accommodate all those things and keeping your quality standards, which you definitely want to do, but still making sure that it remains affordable for people. Yep, get it? That's good.
And I want to just piggyback on what the mayor said, affordable housing for our senior population. They may have lived here their whole life, but they go to retire and now they're 80, let's say. They can't afford to stay here anymore because they can't maintain their home. And so I know a lot of them have ended up moving to Joliet because we only have Gal Gardens, and there's a very long wait list for Gal Gardens. There's only so many homes there, or places to live there. And so I get asked that question a lot, and I've actually seen some of them relocate to the Joliet area because of that.
So senior affordability, okay? Got it?
Ongoing infrastructure needs and revenue, and we'll need revenues to continue to do that.
Okay. So ongoing infrastructure issues and the need for the revenue to cover those costs, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's a huge important one.
Over the next 50 years.
Yeah, building a sustainable model. It can't be sustainable based on, it's a good thing we got that new development to pay for the old stuff. It's got to be at a place where, once development is finally done, that it can still exist, that the Ponzi scheme is not what sustains us, it's that it can sustain itself no matter where development finally ends.
Okay, providing parking for a healthy downtown. Parking is always one of those interesting things. My view of the world is kind of want a parking problem, because if you got a parking problem, that means that your businesses are doing good and you're thriving. Yet, if the parking problem's too bad, then people don't stay and they go off somewhere else, right? So it's this catch-22 thing, I get it.
Less of a carbon footprint.
Less of a reduced carbon footprint, I guess, right? Yeah. It's good. Any other challenges that we want to make sure that we get down? Okay, so let's talk a second about where we're going with this. So we're really talking about a vision for the future of the community. As we talked about earlier, you guys have done your strategic plan, and it does kind of focus on city government and your roles and finance and economic growth and infrastructure and government and leadership and all those good pieces. The comprehensive plan is going to absolutely consider all those things. We're not going to reinvent it. You guys have just spent a lot of time doing that, right? But we're going to build upon those, and we're going to merge that with things like good land use planning, which can help get to some of those things, right? We're going to merge it with parks and open spaces, which talk about the quality of life. We're going to look at the environment, which a lot of the challenges you just talked about were environmentally related in one way or another. We're going to talk about mobility and getting around the community. We are going to talk about non-municipal services and how they relate to the things that are going on with the city government. We talked about the fact that there are multiple taxing bodies. We have to think about how they work together cooperatively for the better of the whole. And so those things are all pieces of the vision. You've got individual vision statements right now for each of those specific 6 areas. We're probably going to try to craft a overall vision for the entire community that's broader than that, up on top of those 6 specific ones, I think, and have a good statement that really you can kind of use as a bellwether when you're reviewing something to see if it's consistent with that general overall vision of the community. So that's kind of where we're going with the comprehensive planning process. So with that, what else do you guys want to talk about? What else should we be thinking about in terms of planning for the future of the community that maybe wasn't brought up tonight, or that you've been really thinking about? Is there an example from another community that you think that's something we should really consider for Lockport? Is there something completely unique that you've thought about for Lockport in the future that doesn't exist right now, or maybe has been talked about but should be repeated so I understand where you guys want to go? Those kind of things. What did we miss, or what other elements of thinking about the future of the community should we be considering in this planning process?
I would just say, keeping our unique flavor. Alderman Deskin mentioned, about Naperville. Why not Naperville? I think that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would take that as in the context of becoming a place that is, destination-wise, but not necessarily that that's our culture. Lockport has a unique culture. And for instance, like just talking about the interconnectivity between Joliet, Lockport, and Lamont, when you think about like the bike path between Batavia, Geneva, and St. Charles, that's a day trip that people take all the time. Completely different culture, right? Ours has an industrial vibe. Ours has a blue-collar vibe, and that's all good. It doesn't mean that it can't be a cool destination place, but the culture that we have is its own, and it's its own personality. And I think making sure we don't lose that flavor, it's important. Nobody wants to be this town where I blindfold you and I can plop you down in some city and you take off your blindfold and you're like, okay, there's the Walgreens, there's the Walmart, I could be in any frickin' city in America, right? It's like we want to be able to plop it down and say, this is a unique place, and that would be Lockport. So making sure that we retain a character that is unique in our own.
Well, I agree with what you said. It's, we've all been to Galena. We all say, oh, it's a destination place. Okay, has a great downtown. Just recently, I went to a town called Herman, Missouri. Their theme of the area is wineries. Well, we don't have wineries in this area, but that was their theme, and there was a theme to the town. And so when I was there, there must have been 25 or 30 bridal parties that were there. They weren't sober either. But they were there. They were spending money, having a good time. other little bitty towns, that you go to. They say, I like that place. I've been to Cedar Falls, Iowa, and going downtown Cedar Falls, Iowa, you are walking in downtown Lockport, Illinois. It's the exact same buildings, okay? But what they've done there is kind of cool. And I said, oh, yeah. And we've all been to places, so, well, I like that element, I like that element, I like that element, but how do we go ahead and get there, okay? And knowing that it's not going to happen in a year or 2 or 10. So the whole point of why can't we be in Naperville is it's just a destination point. And we are becoming a destination point. If we all look back my gosh, just look back 8 years ago and we had 2 burned out buildings downtown, and one was you walk by in the middle of August and it just smelled. And we did this crazy thing of, let's buy it and sell it for $10. And who would have ever thought by doing that simple thing that would begin the revitalization of the downtown? I'm done.
Touching base on that, going back to the museums and the historical, we got some great restaurants down the downtown area in the canal. So I mean, if we can get people to, the destination that, hey, you can take these great walks along the canal, you can see history, you can get into the Illinois Museum, which has great events and some beautiful artwork. And there's a couple different museums in different buildings that would really be a cool thing if we could kind of touch base on that and be, known for a small historical town.
I think we need to take what we have and just really get it out there, because we do have some interesting history that we could share. My vision has always been a place where you could bring family members and participate in, say, going to the museum or walking down the, I&M, and just, just the canal days. Just have things that people want to come to. That's been always my vision, is a place where you can come and visit. People from out of the area want to be here or want to come and visit. That's what I think we need to concentrate. If we have to advertise for that, then we should do that. We should need to get the word out what we have to offer, and then that'll grow because maybe other things will want to come in.
Well, I think whoever.
It seems to me that the civic pride problem. You get a lot of people who do a lot of things very nicely. You got the guy next door whose house, business, whatever it is a dump.
Will, is this where you're going to start griping about your neighbor again?
You're my neighbor.
It's me. It's me.
Okay.
Well, to go ahead to expound on that, I think we've seen that, with the infrastructure improvements that we've seen, essentially in the older section of town. What's happened here is, as the infrastructure has improved, the streets look pretty. People think that streets are the important thing, but it's the stuff that's under the ground that's really the important stuff. And what we've seen here is we've seen an increase in assessed values of the property. By seeing that, what we're seeing is people are painting their porches, or we're seeing people are doing that. But it's only happened over the last couple of years, and it's going to continue to happen. One thing that we also have to go ahead and understand is the days of looking into another 250 house subdivision is going to come to an end real quick. Okay, so now what we have to look at is what is our current stock? Okay, our current stock of maybe repurposing or have different ideas of how we can increase the wealth of a square acre in the downtown area or any other area of town, okay? So where we have, so instead of going out horizontally, which is what has always been the goal of not only of Lockport, but every other town in the United States post-World War II, is we started looking vertical again, okay? And when you go vertical, the wealth that's created in that square acre of a vertical structure is far greater than in a horizontal area. And so I'm hoping that
Joe builds a 3-story building.
I'm hoping that Joe builds a 3-story building, okay? But if whomever builds a 3-story building will then go ahead and then, maybe in a year or two, somebody else goes ahead and does some filler buildings from say, 11th Street over to 12th Street, maybe somebody will go ahead and buy that horrible-looking strip mall down there on 12th Street. And so I'm not so much concerned about, we need to increase the population another 500 so we can get an Applebee's. Well, that's not going to happen. But we can go vertically, not only on State Street, but on Hamilton Street, and basically go all the way up and down State Street. Now, it may take 30 or 40 years to do it, but we can do it.
And let me just wrap up with this. A lot of these things we've been talking about have been happening, and it's been happening because of you guys in this room right here, the people that are sitting here who've been on these committees and have had this vision. So I want to thank you guys for all the stuff that has happened, staff, council members, getting the downtown turned around, as Darren mentioned, streetscapes, even the summer art series and advertising and promoting the city, and people have been coming down here for the first time. 2 developers, whether it's Peter Limburger, who's doing the Lock and Mule right now, came here because we were advertising and getting a summer art series. Aristotle Halikius was out here today. He's a huge developer in Chicagoland. He came to me 6 years ago because Tom Thanis, the Greeks, they like to stick together. Tom Thanis introduced me to him. He said, you got to talk to this guy Aristotle. He came out here, and I was trying to get him interested in Lockport Square, which was in foreclosure at the time, and he was more interested in the downtown. And he says, you know what, here's the thing. You need to get this squared away, and everything else will follow. And here he was today, right, coming at us with some development. So that's because of everybody in here, out there. Thank you for all the hard work these committees have done, and thank you for being here tonight also. So I don't want us to think that there hasn't been great work done up until now. A lot of good things have happening, and I think the momentum is there. Now the pump has been primed and starting to flow. So.
Absolutely. So where are we going next? We've got a working group. That date is wrong. We moved it back a week, so we're on November 5th. We've got a next working group meeting where we're going to be looking at the first chunk of the zoning ordinance. We are wrapping up a couple of additional interviews with some key stakeholders. And your task is, if you think of something, often when I participate in a meeting like this, I think of something when I get home or whatever that I didn't mention that I wanted to mention, right? Shoot Lance a note, shoot me a note, but let us know. Take pictures of things. If you've seen something around the community or somewhere else that we want to make sure is representative of your vision for the future of Lockport, get us those images and those pictures. And if there's a particular issue in the zoning ordinance that you've got a particular concern about, make sure that Lance knows about it, and he'll make sure that I know about it so that we can address it in the plan. But again, it's a great way to do it, looking at both of these things together. We're excited about continuing to work with you, and thank you for all of your good ideas and thoughts this evening. So.
Well, thanks, Jessica. All right, my friends, you got 1 minute to clear out, otherwise you got to stay with us. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. I'm only kidding, I'm not kicking you out, but thank you for coming. We really do appreciate it. What's that?
The days of like the 19th, Lockport and the high school. So one thing, homecoming was downtown. Everything. You were more of a community. Are we able to get that back? Is that just, or is the Homer Lockport thing just separated?
No, I think I was really looking forward to a big group of him. Get those Homer people to feel like, hey, this is our town. This whole fucking Copenhagen Street. I still want to do that. When we get into spring and this has changed, and then we'll have even a couple better places open, it's really going to start being about getting those people to feel this. So it's a goal, and I think it's worthy for us to pursue. I,
I'd like to go, if you, Leila was here, I'd like to go. I don't want the why we can't have homecoming downtown again, and it's like, I grew up with that.
Yeah.
You loved coming down here for the homecoming parade.
Oh, man.
You love being part of that.
I agree. I think it's a great
That's what,
and worthy.
that's what communities are about.
Yep, I agree. All right, you guys ready? We can keep moving on. Ben, you want to take CA1?
Order here. Thank you, Mayor. Is everybody back? CE1 is a resolution 20111. This is for environmental concerns regarding the ban on sale and use of an application of coal tar-based products. I want to thank Mark and Christina and Sunny for their time on this. And we talked about this at the last Committee of the Whole, and trying to ban the PAHs, which is the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which basically the ordinance or resolution in front of you helps to remove coal tar-based sealant products from their shelves. Hopefully ensures that we use asphalt plants that don't have coal tar-based asphalt, and the tar-based sealants and high level of PAHs in sealant materials for roofing don't have coal tar, and we're ensuring that the city staff and City of Lockport will use this resolution to help educate the public and work with our contractors, and when they're pulling permits for the approval process with sealants and or roofing materials. And the resolution is in your packet if you have any other comments or concerns, or Mark, if you want to chime in a little bit.
Anything, anybody?
No, I just wanted to say it was a good process putting this together, and me and Alderwoman Bergbauer, thank you.
All right, so we good with the consent on this? All right, thank you, you two, for doing that.
Thank you.
All right, then we can jump over to AT1.
Yes, or CA2, I think we got to go
I
back.
thought we did, CA2 was,
Was the lobbyist, so.
oh, man, I'm so sorry.
That's right.
All right.
So the CA2, Mayor and members of the council, is the approving of a professional services agreement with Ty Ginsberg and Associates for assistance with federal grants and infrastructure and strategic counseling on behalf of the city of Lockport. As part of the budget process, we've been discussing this with many of you in our 2x2 meetings, and we felt like there was enough positive feedback that we could go ahead and bring this conversation to you sooner than later and try to get started as soon as possible. The TG&A Associates has had a lot of experience in federal grants and federal infrastructure grants and funding. They have good connections with the rail companies and quiet zone applications that we're going to be looking for assistance on, and the Army Corps of Engineers, where we're looking for some assistance with Lock Number 1 from a federal level. So, had many emails and phone calls with many of you about this item. Tried to respond to and share those responses. I've also interviewed this company a couple of times and did a conference call with the mayor and interviewed some of their other clients with other municipalities in the region. Was very pleased to hear some of the results, and their agreement is in your packet here for the scope of work that I have highlighted in helping us with certain projects. We'll be including basically a monthly status update call, and we'll create a list of priorities for these projects, and then I can share them with the full council as we have progress. And again, this is an agreement that could be terminated if we find it unsatisfactory at any time with a 30-day notice. And we're looking for a 2-year agreement, but again, it's severable at any point if we need to. Certainly welcome to take any of your questions.
I just want to say, I believe that session in DC is on hold through the end of the year. And so we might want to consider waiting until after the election and
Sure.
the processes are filed. So I don't know why we'd want to start this at December 1st.
Well, there's a lot of homework and information you can work on before the session is in. I also did discuss that with them, that there's this dead session, lame duck session, but we agreed that there was a lot of things that we could work on with them as part of the process, including helping to further define the scope of work and the priorities that we want and what grants we would go after that they would be lobbying for. So I think there's plenty of things that we can work on immediately, but we can certainly wait if the council so wishes.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, we'll need to set an agenda, get it set up, so that's fine. It gives that time to happen.
I also brought up other issues with you, that we might actually have a congressional candidate there that lives very close by then if he wins. So I would just like to see till after the election and not spend money on a lobbyist if we have one that's there.
Is there actually
You know,
council meetings?
yeah, so are what you saying is that if we get a candidate, they may be our lobbyist?
No, what I'm saying that when we talked about this in the meetings, I said, we might have a congressional candidate who lives right in Homer Glen that'll be down there in DC. You brought up the reason for the lobbyist was to have someone down in DC. Well, we might actually have someone who is literally in DC that lives 10, 15 minutes from here.
Yeah, I would say that's, I mean,
I'm just asking, I mean, we don't know what the outcome is. I'm asking to delay it till, or table it till at least maybe February.
It's okay. I mean, I hear what you said. I'm just going to respond to it. I hear what you're saying, but there is a difference between, and you've been doing this long enough to know, there's a difference between the new guy who doesn't even know where the bathroom is when he gets to Washington to a person that's got the connections. We get a lobbyist because we need people who know who to call, who have the phone numbers in their Rolodex, who, you know, all those good things. The new guy is not going to know anybody. So I think there's a difference between having a representative and having a lobbyist that can, you know, actually attack different things. And not just in Washington, it's stuff in the state level.
Well, Well, we're also talking about spending $120,000 if it's a 2-year agreement at $5,000 a year. Also, under new information that I recently learned, that if the Homer Township Road Fund stops giving us money each year because it dissolves, we'll have a budget shortfall of $700,000 a year that we'd have to find money to replace that. So I'd like to know if we would like to discuss that prior to making a decision like this, too.
Well, we certainly have our budget meeting coming up to talk about
Yeah,
like,
we can
what we
talk
want to
about
do
that
with,
then.
you know, all the next year's expenses and how the township, you know, goes. It is an issue to talk about. So I don't know how you guys feel about that part of it. It's like we don't know what we're in the middle of doing a budget right now. So do we wait until we are agreement on the budget numbers before we do, you know, an outreach like this? It's actually not a bad idea.
So we can table this then till February.
But it's not, I don't think it's a bad idea in the case that, like, I think it's the right move, but knowing what our budget looks like with, COVID numbers seem to be good. We don't seem to be pinched that hard.
I would fight back and say that this is regarding federal grants and infrastructure where you're going after matching federal money. And if we're missing out on those federal monies, that actually is costing us and the taxpayers locally because we haven't gotten them into our income pool. So that's the other ballast that you have to deal with. We've also lost, due to a Democrat primary, a ranking member on the House Transportation Committee. He's gone in January because the Democrat primary went the other way. So that's my concern as well. We've lost that influence of 20 years in the House, ranking member on that Transportation Committee. And if one side that's a local person does win before we have our next meeting, city council meeting in November, that is a new discussion. But I do agree that in the House, you're working your way from the bottom, climbing your way through subcommittees over multiple elections to get to a level of influence. And if you're one party and you have opposite controlled party of the House, you don't have any influence. But if we're trying to go after federal grants and infrastructure projects, to me, that's a good thing. Do I feel that by the time we get to city council in November, we'll know how the election turned out, we'll know what the powers of play are, and if we have to decide at city council, okay, maybe we do hold it back one more meeting to the end of November. Maybe we do hold it back till the beginning of December. But we'll know who the powers at play are by the next time we all meet as a group.
It's a proactive approach where you're always going to have ongoing infrastructure needs, and
Yeah.
we're always wanting to be competitive for grant dollars, and especially federal grant dollars. And whether we end up losing revenue or not through the road and tax bridge fund, which I don't anticipate that happening for another year, we would still have the opportunity to bring these other dollars in that could potentially make up that shortfall. So I look at it as a way to help fill holes that we don't anticipate.
All right, so let me just recap. So I think most of us are in agreement that there's a need for somebody to do these things. Can't just rely on representation, as Mark elaborated on. It's really just timing. Is this something we can move forward? Will we miss out on? We're making an investment in this. We're not doing this so that we can, Ben can get into a party. We're doing it so that we can get the grants and get the money and get the projects done. So is this investment, worth moving forward on now? Like that. So that's the question I posed to everybody.
So I still think we have to discuss this for the budget costs moving forward, because if you're going to be talking about future shortcomings, then it doesn't matter if we can get grants if we don't have the matching part that we have to contribute.
When I was at the budget meetings, this was all explained.
Right.
And I was comfortable
There's,
with it. But I do want to say, the one thing they offer us also, when you're offering with lobbyists, is you're also working with U.S. senators, and you're also working with career people in the U.S. Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of the Interior, the U.S. Department of Defense, the U.S. Department of Energy. All those individuals are very vital to your infrastructure, to your federal grants. Think of the U.S. EPA. Those are connections you need. Those are connections you want to have. Now, would I like to see, possibly from this firm, a list of their local successes?
Sure.
Yes.
That's a good idea. I
So-
agree, yeah.
But I don't want to attach a possibility after all the lawsuits are done in Homer Township, because yes, I do want to see that line item go away for the taxes, but I don't want to put a harness on us, pulling lead, saying, well, we can't do anything for 2 years, because something's going to happen 1 or 2 tax levies from now when that does leave the property tax bill.
All right, so we can do one of two things. We can just go ahead and put this on for an action item and see if we can't get some of the requests of like, what are
Share that with the
local,
council in an email.
success
Sure.
stories and these kinds of things. And if we decide at that time
also
that
30
it's
days.
okay, we can say yes, or we can say we'd like to table it for another meeting because we're not quite satisfied. So this is where we want to go. We'll put it on for an action item.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I also think I also think number 4 in their outline is we've got 30 days. You have 30 days,
To the
say
point
we
you
don't,
want to, yeah.
we don't find this useful, done.
All right.
And there is no penalties, correct? Should we, decide and we give them the 30 days and all that, there is no other penalties involved?
Correct.
Okay. All I can say is that just in the organization of, the realtors, we have a lobbyist full-time in Springfield. And being a full-time, negotiator for whatever organization, whether it's a city or whatever, it does have value. We have found that when you have someone there looking out for your best interests, that's the best thing. But, and I understand saving money, that's always obviously first on the agenda. However, though, sometimes you have to spend money in order to make money, and I think this is one of those cases where yes, it's gonna cost us money, and hopefully somehow we will, get that all back, because we have someone that's fighting for us, and we won't have to spend as much money on the infrastructure and so forth.
Can you tell me the names of the consultants that will be there? Like, or the lobbyists, like who would be the people that would be working for us?
Sure, Jason Ty would be our main contact. He's the, one of the principal owners, and his partner, Matt Ginsberg. So Jason Ty and Matt Ginsberg are the partners in this lobby group.
And it's just Ty on top there, Jason Ty is his last name, because it's Ty.
Yeah, it's two, it's,
in there. It's in the packet.
So it'll just be those two guys?
Okay,
so
friends.
We'll have an action on November 4th, and I'll get you some more information before the meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we jump down to AT1.
81, yes.
Okay.
Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm not going to belabor this. This is an amendment to the city code to increase the cap on restaurant liquor license from 21 to 22 for location that is where Diamond Restaurant used to be. They closed in 2018 due to business operation management issues, and that location is empty. The new tenant, Roy Shabali, wants to open up a Mexican fusion restaurant there. There's no concerns regarding having the cap go up, since that location also housed the former Aurelio Pizza. So with that in mind, I request this item to be placed on consent for November 4th City Council meeting.
Yeah, it should be a real interesting place. It's actually Mexican-Asian fusion.
Yeah,
It's kind of
Mexican-Asian fusion,
a very
yeah.
interesting mix. But anyways, he's a nice addition over there. Okay, any questions then? All right, we'll put that on for consent, please. All right, PW1.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple items this evening. On the agenda first is the release of the bond for O'Reilly's Auto. This is typical release of the bond. All of the work has been completed to a satisfactory state. As always, the release of the bond, which is in the amount of $401,326.47, would be contingent on the city receiving a 10% 12-month maintenance guarantee. So this evening, we would be asking for council's consideration for resolution number 20-115 to release the O'Reilly's Auto Bond. Consideration for consent for the next meeting.
All right, any questions?
Just a quick question, Brent.
Yes.
On the bottom of that, it said, any additional measures required as a result of actual field conditions shall be discretion of the City of Lockport Director. Did you see any problems? That was just the letter that came, that you guys attached, but it was discretion. Any of the landscaping or the elevation, did you see any problems with that?
No.
No, okay.
No.
So,
Yep.
just wanted to make sure.
All right, thank you. We'll put it on consent then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then we're looking at PW2.
Next item, PW-2. This is for the purchase of our backhoe loader. The reason that we've taken this long to come to council is with everything going on this year, we were obviously cognizant of the potential financial constraints, and before we brought this to council, we wanted to make sure that we were in a financial place to purchase this, or to propose to purchase this item. This was budgeted this year for our department, so we are looking this evening, or asking, I should say, for council's consideration to purchase a 2021 John Deere 410L backhoe loader. This would be replacing a 2001 Caterpillar. We do have one other backhoe in our fleet that is a John Deere as well. So we would be asking for consideration in the amount of $121,324.07 to purchase this item that was budgeted. And it is also, as always, we are going through a Sourcewell cooperative contract, so it has been state bid, state purchase. Looking for council's consideration for consent.
Thoughts, concerns? All right, we'll put it on consent, please. And then PW3.
PW-3, this is very similar to the previous item. Waited until we were certain that we were going to be in a financial position to move forward with our budgeted items. This is for a roller. So about a year and a half ago, we had our roller. Unfortunately, it basically went out on us. It started on fire, actually. It was an old roller that was purchased at auction. So this one will be replacing that. Over the last year and a half, we have rented rollers when we've needed them. This will allow us to complete work in a timely manner and not have to expend future rentals. So this evening, we would be asking for the purchase of a 2021 Bomag compactor, the amount of $36,499.42. This item was budgeted and again will be purchased through the Sourcewell Cooperative contract.
Questions, concerns? All right, we'll throw it on consent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All right, that's everything, yes? I think so. Yeah, what do you need?
A couple of new business items. We were going to discuss the potential for a special meeting next week. If we have the grant. Tangled Roots is trying to get open by Thanksgiving, I think, hopefully. And they have a facade grant application that they were trying to get to us by tomorrow, which would allow us to potentially have a 5-minute special meeting next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. If we have a quorum available, we'd like to proceed with that, with your consent.
Basically, I need 5 people to show up.
I will not be available that day.
Okay, does anybody else can make it? You guys, okay, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
If you can.
Is that doable? All right, sorry.
If we're good, we'll.
Good. Okay, so 1, 2, you're here, you can make it?
We just need 5, right? With
I
the
just
mayor.
need 5, so. Okay, Darren, you good?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
All right, sounds like we'll be able to pull that off. So if we may not, but if they get all their stuff in, and we could be able to help
We'll send
get that,
emails and
get
give
that
you
done.
updates. 7, we'll do it at 7.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be here. That's a nice idea, but it would take us longer.
It can't be
Could be.
done remotely if the mayor declares it to be unreasonable, impractical to meet in person. So it's up to you, Mayor.
All righty then. Very impractical. I'm if it's easier, because I know we're asking you guys to go out of your way to do this, if it's easier to do remote, I don't have a problem setting that up. Would you rather do remote?
It's a short.
So Larry's already thinking about going out and getting a drink afterwards. That's why he's.
You could attend from 1,000 miles
Yeah,
away.
he's already planning ahead. All right, well, it sounds like we'll just do it in person then. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Okay.
So non-remote, got it. And then we, did you want to talk about the more business grants as well? The
Oh, yeah, thanks. I must have wrote all this stuff down on my other agenda, so I'm sorry. So, okay, so we've got the whole, new restrictions going on. One thing we were very, it was a pleasant surprise was when we got the CARES money to replenish that $350,000 that we had used to help everyone through that the strict lockdowns. So this time we have businesses that are hyper-focused on restaurants and bars. My question to council is, would you guys be open to, doing another round of that with these bars and restaurants to help them get through this next, restriction for them? Like I said, we had the money replenished, so we have the opportunity. We can use essentially the same guidelines, but we would focus it on these businesses as opposed to the larger range that we had in the past. Is that something we're...
Again, I think we should discuss where our budget is prior to it. I mean, I think that can wait another 2 weeks or so. How soon is the budget meeting, Lisa?
Next week, next council meeting.
Well, I would say this. We already did it once, and the money got replenished. So we were okay with
Reserves.
it within the budget that we had.
Sure, it was
And knowing that
reserves.
this is an emergency situation for these folks,
Yeah.
I think that...
In theory, it would come from this year's fiscal, not next year's fiscal.
Yeah.
This year's fiscal is solid, and we had money in reserves. The council made a decision to pull excess reserves to give those grants. The federal CARES money has reimbursed that grant that we put out, and so we're really back to being whole again, where we have reserves. We will, at the budget meeting and discussions, we will probably close this fiscal with the surplus. So there is funding available if the council wanted to do an additional round of grants.
And I believe we got a little extra back with the CARES, right? It was,
Right, I just did another application with the CARES for another 600,000, so we had a total of $1 million that was available to us.
yeah,
The first one, we actually had solid expenses, including those grants,
Yeah.
of just over 400,000.
yeah.
To do the application for the next 600,000, all we applied for was for the public salary, the
Yeah.
public safety salaries, so that we could have access to all those monies, but it doesn't just have to be used for that. You
Yeah.
can use it for these things.
So the money is provided through CARES. I think we should use it.
Right.
Okay. I'm just looking to know if we have a consensus to move forward on it, and we can kind of do a similar process to what we had before. Some extra.
We can double pay for it.
So I do want to share something that me and Joanne learned at the budget meeting. I don't know, maybe you guys have not heard the same information we went last. So Lisa had shared that 700,000 would be short in the budget if this fund
In
disappears.
2021, we're talking
Okay,
2020.
hold on. What I didn't know is the road fund is 50/50. 50% comes straight into Lisa's budget from the Homer Township Road Fund.
It's your budget, by the way.
Right. I
your
understand. And the money was going into the general fund. It was not being specifically used for roads. And so that was new information for me, that the Homer Township residents were paying. It's kind of a lot of money. And the other 50% is what we were getting from Mike DeVivo, the highway commissioner.
We
And
weren't
so-
getting 50%.
Well, how much were we getting?
Keeps that.
He keeps that.
Okay, so, but how much were we getting originally? How much money had we gotten that did not it went into the general fund, which is also where you're getting your CARES money, everything general fund, and it was not specifically designated.
We're not losing that funding yet, and I'm not sure if maybe
No,
you
no, no,
didn't
but I'm just
understand what I
saying
was saying
that
to
there
you.
might be some roads that people believe that was always going to the roads, and that it was going into our general fund.
We do, we spend a lot of money out of our operations to take care of our roads, okay?
There's a
So we
line
have
item.
snow plows, we have
I
street
understand
work,
that.
so
I don't
that
think you
money
do.
I just wanna-
You know
I just
what,
wanna-
Mayor, point of order, we have done a full right, left turn off some crazy street where we've been talking about 2020 budgeting relating to businesses needing emergency grants from us, and now we're digging deep into line items that have been in the budget for years, and we know how a general fund works in municipal law.
Well, I would say two things.
So,
Why don't we wrap up the
irritated.
first piece? And that I think is, and I think Catherine in her mind that they're related, but essentially they're not, is that do we have consensus to use the CARES money that was replenished and had some excess to help again with these businesses? That's really a separate thing. And we have consensus on that, so we can close that. I'm sensing here that what Catherine then wanted to do was, under new business, there's another discussion that you wanted to say is like, is everybody aware that 50% of the road fund from Homer Township used to come back? I'm under the impression that most everybody's aware of it, but.
I did not know that.
And that's okay, it's a complicated issue, and if it's new to you, it's new to you, and that's fine. These are things that, as the new budget happens in the future for 2021, that we will have to look at. And this is going back to, it will make a difference on how the referendum goes and what a new IGA looks like, so there are some unknowns to it. There may, if there's still if the Homer Highway Department doesn't get dissolved, or if Homer Township takes over the responsibilities, and there's still, levying for township roads, there'll most likely still be money that comes in from road and bridge funds. If it goes a different direction, an IGA, there's lots of variables. And so those variables for what I think Ben is anticipating, and I don't think he's wrong on this, is that I can't imagine that whatever happens is all going to get ironed out before the new levy in the budget. It's most likely going to be a 2022 thing before it gets resolved. So I don't think we have to, panic, but there's a legitimate thing that will have to be discussed at one point if road funds are not at the same level that they were in the past, and that happens. And then we'd have to discuss, do we do less projects? Do we find other ways of getting revenue? All those kinds of things will be a discussion, I think.
Yeah, and just for point of clarification, the state statute sends us that money directly. Most municipalities use it for general funds. We do have certain funds in our budget each year that the council has ordained that are restricted to capital, the ComEd grant, the sales referendum. So each year in the budget process, the council kind of consents to where the revenues and expenses are going, and yeah, that's a line item that's been there since before I've been here. It's been in place since Eric, and probably 10 years ago.
So, you know, as
So the council could say, for 2021, we would like the road fund money to be used toward roads if we
Sure,
wanted
if
to?
the council ordains it, yeah. I wouldn't recommend earmarking certain things restricted. You want the ability to be flexible each year based on your needs. So,
But those are all discussions that we'll have, and we'll have to
Right.
see how the whole referendum goes, because that will put in different directions. Like I said, and I put, you know, some information out today for residents, I think one of the positives is at least all the entities involved agree on that rate needs to be lowered so that Lockport citizens are not paying for the 153 miles in the city of, or the village of Homer Glen. And we all agree on that, even if it means there's less revenue coming back, that's the way it should be. And so we will deal with any differences. Yes, Lisa?
One thing I just wanted to add is, I think regardless of how all that plays out with the referendum, my understanding is that when you're doing the levy that we're passing here before the end of December is to cover expenses that happen really in 2020.
prior year.
Okay? So we're really not going to be impacted either way in 2021 by this situation. Okay? This is something for us that will be impacted in 2022. When I first started the budget, we didn't know that. But that's the way it's been coming to play. I talked to the county, we've talked to Sunny, we've talked to, you know,
The levy's in
the
arrears.
parties.
Mhm.
The levy is in arrears. So I do believe that the way it's going to play out is that either the road district or the Homer Township is going to be, again, doing the levy for the road and bridge. We will not be for the 2020 levy, okay? So I don't think that that discussion, even though it does need to occur as we're going forward, we need to be planning for this, I don't believe that it's going to impact 2021 budget, okay?
Correct.
Okay.
So.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right, my friends, why don't we, if we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, we got Joanne and
You can have
Catherine.
those. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, why don't we just take 5 to get whatever we need to do, and then we'll come back and we'll get into city council.
Isn't this just?
Bartleson. Here. Coretta. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, looking to have a motion for a consent agenda this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Ooh, man, they were quick. I think it was Darren and Mark. Yeah,
Mark,
okay.
got it, thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Tonight's consent agenda is Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from October 7th, regular City Council meeting minutes from October 7th, our payroll period ending October 4th, four-year lease extension agreement with the Lockport Chamber of Commerce here in the building, facade grant for 936, 938 South State, facade grant for 1100 and 1106 South State, and then there's the award, Clean Air Service Corporation for vault repair work. So looking for a motion to approve. Renee? Seconded by Larry. May I have a roll call, please?
Saban.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
Coretta.
Yes?
Motion passes.
All right, FN1, looking for a motion to approve bills through October 13th.
So move.
All right, Joanne, seconded by Renee. Any questions? All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Saban.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
I abstain because the city of Lockport is paying my employer for the wonderful hydrants that you can see down at the Sloan Building. So,
Wait a minute, I have issues with those.
Deskin.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
Coretta.
Yes?
Motion passes.
All right, next thing, we're looking for a motion to approve the three-year lease extension with Space Lab.
Make a motion.
Larry, Renee, questions, concerns?
I just have one comment. I know I had asked for a 1 year before. After thinking about this, I know that we're continuing to grow, but my thought process is that's kind of prime location, and I don't know if we would consider maybe moving our water department or some of our services for walk-in to be on the first floor of our building, only to make it easier. I've recently experienced working in the Plainfield one, and a lot of services, you have to take the elevator up or the stairs, and sometimes that gets very tricky if you're handicapped or not accessible. So I think that's prime real estate for having it for accessible for the public, being on the first floor. And so that would just be my thought process with a 1 year lease at that location versus a 3 year lease. We might want that space sooner.
I believe, Ben, you were looking at doing that in the office that we have available.
Yeah, Congressman Lipinski's office did open. We had also discussed about having a bill payment center on the first floor available for seniors, so that's certainly something that's within discussion. We've also had conversations with, hey, what do you know, Ron lives here. That we had discussions with Laughs that they showed an interest in moving into the Lipinski office, but we're still kind of waiting for to find out if the winner of that race would like to have their own congressional office here or not. That's hopefully the goal. So we'll see. I mean, Lisa and I have talked about the classrooms on the first floor becoming some type of walk-up building department and everything. There would take some expense and build-out to make that happen. It's something on our maybe long-term goal, but I don't foresee it happening in the next 3 years, but.
Well, personally, I think if it happens, it should happen in the Lipinski office, because then you don't have to take the elevator up 3 steps.
Yeah, the architect, there's the stairs there regardless, yeah. It's really not, yeah. I mean, I guess you could if you went through the gymnasium, but it would.
Can you just tell me how often the elevator has broken in City Hall? I don't know, so I'm just asking. Has it, I know before it used to break down. I don't know.
We've spent some money once a year, yeah. Oh, gosh. Seldom.
You gotta take the stairs, keep your girlish figure like myself. Okay.
Haven't received any complaints
It's all
about
fine
it,
and
so.
dandy if your knees are okay.
All right, well, why don't we do a roll call on it, please?
Got it. Saban.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
Coretta.
No?
Motion passes.
All right, next is PD1, is amendment to the purchase of downtown video security system for Minuteman. Looking for a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll make that motion.
All right, JR, Renee. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Nope.
Part of this was that we had asked to add another camera to make sure we covered the fireplace, and Terry was gracious to work with the company to add a few more cameras, which rose the maximum amount that we had requested. So we asked for another 10,000, basically, right, Terry?
Yeah, they're downtown right now installing the system, so we gave us a better deal because they're down there. If they didn't do it now and they had to come back, it'd be significantly more.
So that's why.
All right, well, if there's no questions, then why don't we do a roll call?
Okay, Saban?
Yes.
Schreiber?
Yes.
Bergbauer?
Yes.
Galogli?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Lobes?
Yes.
Bertelson?
Yes?
Coretta?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All righty. PD2 is a request to upgrade the police station video security system, so looking for a motion to approve.
So moved. Or second.
Who?
Mark? Larry and Mark.
Larry? Oh, okay. I couldn't hear because people were talking. All right. Any questions, concerns? Okay. Well, then we just go ahead and do a roll call then.
Okay. Saban?
Yes.
Schreiber?
Yes.
Bergbauer?
Yes.
Galogli?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Lobes?
Yes.
Bertelson?
Yes?
Coretta?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next is AT1. So what do we need here? Is this a motion?
Oh, yeah, we need a motion to approve Resolution 20-120, 20-121, and 20-122.
Okay. So Sonny asked for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, JR, seconded by Larry. Questions, concerns, thoughts? You want to explain?
I will briefly explain. This is Step 3 grievances. Grievance number 20-05 deals with detective assignment. 20-06 deals with the K-9 unit, and 20-07 deals with the holiday pay. As stated in the cover memo, the negotiated agreement allows the city council to appoint a member of the city council, in which this city council appointed Alderman Lobes to meet with the grievance and the grievant, the city administrator, and any other parties with facts to those grievances. The findings of facts and recommendations are included in each of the resolution. In summary, all of the 3 findings and recommendation for this step 3 grievances is a denial of the grievances, and as for specific findings for the 20-120 resolution, which is for 20-05 grievance, it includes not only the denial of step 3 grievance, 20-05, but it also affirms and approves the detective assignment as announced by the Chief of Police, Terry Lemming, on June 30th, 2020. Resolution 20-121 also is a denial of the Step 3 grievance. It's a denial of grievance number 20-06, but specifically includes a non-binding recommendation to direct the Chief of Police to set forth the vehicle replacement policy based upon criteria such as mileage, condition, need of replacement, safety, and other criteria deemed appropriate by the chief, and that if the current K-9 unit vehicle can be retrofitted, if it is placed on that replacement list, it would be only placed on the vehicle replacement list if it can be fitted back and put back into patrol vehicle upon the retirement of the K-9 Santos. The resolution 20-122 is just a straight denial. So with that, we're recommending that all 3 resolutions be adopting the findings and recommendation by Alderman Lobes.
Any questions, concerns? Okay, and we'll do a roll call, please.
Yes. Sorry, Saban, yeah, okay.
Positive you called for Satan, but
Yes.
Schreiber?
Yes.
Bergbauer?
Yes.
Galogli?
Yes.
Deskin? Lobes?
Yes.
Bertelson?
Yes?
Coretta?
Yes.
Motion passes.
okay. Next on the agenda is looking for a motion to approve PTW1, which is the grant funding allocated city funds, Phase 1 engineering for the bike path. So looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Christina and JR. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Anyone to elaborate? Are we good? Good. All right, so let's do a roll call, please.
Okay, Saban.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes?
Freda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and lastly, we have PW2, which is the ITEP grant funding approval for 20% funds for the downtown streetscape improvements. So we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 20113.
I'll make that motion.
All right, JR? Any seconds? Second by, was that Renee? Okay. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Okay, then we'll do a roll call, please.
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Lobes.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
Freda. Yes. Motion passes.
All right, my friends, nothing further than, Gary, did you want to mention something about testing?
About who?
So you may have heard that there's an outbreak of COVID at the police station.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened was, we had an officer Friday that had symptoms. We sent him home, and he was tested. The results came back Monday that he was positive for COVID, but he had symptoms. So we identified about 16 officers that had close contact with him. We sent them for testing at a local medical facility here in town for the rapid test. And 8 of them came back positive, but none of them had symptoms. So the next day, which was yesterday, we sent them to DuPage Medical for the more thorough long-term test. And out of 5 tests that came back already, 4 were negative, and 1 was positive. So we don't have an outbreak at the PD. I wouldn't call that an outbreak. We're still waiting for 3 more tests back. But I don't recommend that the rapid test, because it's proven already it's not very accurate. And that's the results that are reported to the state. These people that were not positive are reported to the state as being positive, so.
And these, yeah, well, that's good news. I mean, we're glad that these officers don't have it. It, of course, creates some of the dismay we all have about, like, numbers and accuracy of testing.
Right.
I had a conversation with Silver Cross, and you were talking about that the other night they had a very high level of, emergency room people there, and, it was problematic. All their beds were filled, and of course it's concerning. And I said, this is a dumb question, but are they all have COVID? And the answer was no. In fact, many of them were people who were intoxicated because they were over drinking from depression. So I think a lot of times these numbers that we hear get us very startled and very concerned about the COVID, but when you dig deeper, there's a little more information that's very essential for us to understand, so that
Yeah, we haven't
and
been
it's
told
tough.
the truth. We haven't been told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That is the truth.
So these are things that are difficult. Trusting that state's doing the best they can in a difficult situation, but it is hard to manage all this information and testing and all these kinds of stuff. These are some of the problems that go with it. So I guess we can, first of all, be grateful that officers don't have it. And even the one that did have it, I think, is fairly low symptoms, so. Okay. All right, very good. All right, if there's nothing else, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Catherine and Mark, all in favor?
Who seconded?
Talking about the new fire.
Who seconded?
Going in and.
Who seconded?
Did they get a